Abigail slammed both her fists on the table. She was furious. As Tiffany's best friend, of course she knew that the following day was Tiffany's birthday. She also knew that Tiffany's father, Johnson Vandergeld, had organized a lavish party for his daughter. Abigail didn't want Damon at that party under any circumstances. Looking at Damon's smug face, Abigail smirked and said,
"Damon Hemsworth, how have you got the nerve to smile?"
"Why shouldn't I smile?"
Damon asked, shrugging his shoulders. Abigail stared at him, her face revealing her bemusement at the whole situation. She was blown away that such brazen people even existed. The Vandergeld family was rich and powerful, and Tiffany was a wealthy person in her own right. Therefore, Tiffany's birthday party was going to be quite the event. But Damon was just a poor student, so it would obviously be like a fish out of water at such a plush engagement.
All right, keep up the pretense. You'll soon regret telling all these lies.
As Abigail stood up, she took her handbag and said to Tiffany,
"I've had enough. I'm out of here."
As she left, Abigail started to chuckle. Maybe Landon wasn't the richest man in the world, but all those going to the Vandergeld family's house the next day were very rich. Most of them were the infamous wealthy young Hillwood set. Any one of them would be enough to make Damon feel ashamed. On top of that, there was a particular rich kid going to the party who had been pursuing Tiffany. She knew that he was going and that he was a mover and shaker in Hillwood. Even Tiffany's father approved of him courting her. The rich kid was called Enzo Laurier, and he was the second son of the Laurier family, one of the most powerful and influential families in Hillwood. Had they not been, Johnson Vandergeld would not have allowed Enzo near his daughter. Although neither Tiffany nor Enzo had graduated from college yet, their marriage seemed to be heaven sent, and it was one of the best things to happen to the Vandergeld family in a long time. Therefore, Tiffany was putting Damon in a tricky situation by asking him to go to her party. No one ever dared antagonize the Vandergelds. After Abigail left the hotel, Damon frowned and scratched his head. Her attitude had unnerved him. Abigail had unconsciously underestimated Damon. The real rich kid had been right in front of her nose, but she hadn't taken him seriously.
Don't mind her. She's always like that. But she really seems to have it in for you.
Tiffany said in a hurry and then took out a credit card.
"What's this?"
There's $20,000 credit on this card. This is what I'll pay you if you pretend to be my boyfriend at my party.
Then, she took out another card.
There's another $50,000 on this one. Buy me whatever gift you like for my birthday.
Tiffany looked shy and embarrassed. She was using Damon. Blushing, she told him about Enzo and explained her plan to him. Enzo and his family knew all the rich boys at college, but no one knew Damon. He seemed too poor to be on their radar.
"I'll take the $50,000 to buy you a gift, but you keep the $20,000 for yourself."
The idea of taking money to pretend to be someone's boyfriend was not for Damon. He picked up the one credit card and said,
"Send me the address, and I'll see you tomorrow night."
Seeing Damon leave, Tiffany let out a long sigh of relief. She whispered to herself,
You walked away very quickly. Why didn't you want to spend more time looking at me?
She'd been preparing to go shopping with Damon to buy him a set of decent clothes, but Damon hadn't known anything about it. He was going to suffer at Tiffany's party. Damon left feeling relaxed.
"Is Enzo a rich kid?"
He wondered. He kind of hoped he was, even if it was just to have the chance to bring him down a peg or two. Just as he was about to go back to the university, Damon's phone rang. Seeing that it was Thomas, he answered immediately.
"Mr. Hemsworth, are you free? I hope I'm not disturbing you."
"You can always talk to me, even if you are disturbing me."
Damon replied with a smile. Thomas knew that Damon was being sincere.
"It's nothing major. It's a project. I found you a deal that's worth about $100 million.
Damon went weak at the knees.
"A deal worth $100 million is pretty major,"
he thought.
"What kind of project is it?"
Damon's interest was piqued. Thomas was pleased to hear Damon's reaction. If he was interested in the project, it might be enough to prove that he could run the family business. Thomas felt he could recognize a person's capabilities. "I'll send someone to bring you to the hotel now. They'll explain everything to you on the way." Thomas immediately sent a driver to collect Damon. Damon arrived at Thomas's hotel within the hour, and they talked the whole night. With his own knowledge and Thomas's help, Damon finalized several projects, all of which formed his first foray into the world of investments. Thomas stroked his beard and chuckled.
Mr. Hemsworth, you've got the knack for this. I see. It's not that I'm flattering you, but these projects were indeed losing us money. And the way you explained things to me just now made me realize that we need to look at all our assets in a more long-term way. Besides, one of the reasons the Serafino family has its status today is because we have sound financial foundations and can invest in larger projects.
After talking the whole night, Damon was a little tired.
If you find anything that I've messed up, call me straight away.
He was always very polite to Thomas and somehow felt that he was more than just a personal assistant. On one level, Thomas was more of a teacher to Damon. He could be a mentor, leading Damon into unveiling the mystery of the Serafino family.
Ah, I see there are a couple of issues.
Thomas answered immediately.
What have you found?
Frankly, it's the way you spend your money. Mr. Hemsworth, your rate of spending is too slow. As a member of the Serafino family, you should feel ashamed.
What?
Damon almost choked. Okay. He was quite frugal, but that had come from being poor in the past.
Mr. Hemsworth, you must change your spending habits as soon as possible. You should try not to save what you can afford to waste. It's those who spend money that make money.
Damon breathed a long sigh of relief and stared at Thomas. He felt that he was on an emotional roller coaster.
Mr. Hemsworth, did I say something wrong?
Thomas asked curiously. Damon shook his head. There had been nothing wrong with what his father's assistant had said. After hearing his advice, Damon grabbed the project file and browsed through it.
In that case, how about we double our investment in these projects?
Thomas's eyes widened as he smiled.
Mr. Hemsworth, you're learning fast. You want to double the capital?
Yes, our costs will double, and we'll have a 0% increase in profit.
Thomas was a little confused.
No. Wait, the profit increase will be more than 0%.
Damon suddenly became a little more confident in his plan.
That's good. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the family earn a ton of money from these investments.
Thomas said with a smile. Damon smiled. The feeling of having too much money was simply too good to be true. A couple of $100 million had been spent in the blink of an eye, but Damon knew that he would earn that money back on his own. Moreover, he promised himself that he had to make more money. The Serafino family wouldn't be lacking those who could afford to spend.
By the way, Thomas, I'm going to a friend's birthday party tomorrow. Can you help me find a gift?
Damon was worried that he didn't have enough time to get something suitable. Thomas grinned.
Of course. Tell me about your friend.
It's for my girlfriend.
Damon said tentatively. At that moment, he couldn't explain his complex relationship with Tiffany. At the very least, he knew that she wanted him to pretend to be her boyfriend at her party. Thomas patted his chest.
Okay, you don't have to give me any more information. I'll prepare something special.
That would be great. But could you let me know what it is before I give it to her? Can you give me a hint?
He was looking forward to seeing the means of the Serafino family in action.
I'll ask someone to bring it right away.
Thomas made a phone call, and the person on the other end of the phone sounded very anxious. By the time the call ended, it was 6 in the morning, and Thomas left to let Damon sleep. It was noon the following day when Damon eventually woke up. Thomas handed him a small box, saying,
Mr. Hemsworth, this little beauty will knock her socks off.
Damon opened the box to see what was inside.
Are you sure?
He asked with a frown.
100% sure. That will rock her world.
How can it do that?
Thomas leaned into his ear and said only one word. However, that one word was enough to blow Damon's mind. After having lunch with Thomas, Damon returned to the university. When he arrived at the library, he opened his textbook. A familiar paper star appeared again. He hurriedly opened it, but there were no words that time. Instead, it was an emoticon. Damon could see that it meant that someone was upset, but he couldn't figure out who it was.
Could it be Tiffany asking for my help?
He wondered. However, the more Damon thought about it, the more he felt sure it wasn't Tiffany. She didn't strike Damon as someone who would make paper stars. He decided he would ask her that night. He put the little star into his pocket and read his textbook for a while. Then, Tiffany sent him a text.
Make sure you get to my place on time.
At exactly 5 that afternoon, Damon appeared at Tiffany's house. There weren't many adults around, so Tiffany and her friends had the run of the place. When she saw Damon had arrived, Tiffany was thrilled. She ran forward and grabbed his hand.
You got here early.
Well, I had a date with a beautiful lady.
You're such a charmer.
She said as she rolled her eyes, making her look lovelier than ever.
Come upstairs with me.
Tiffany dragged Damon, and they both went up the stairs. Tiffany's house was huge. It was a detached villa with a luxurious garden. It was the first time Damon had ever gone to such an expensive house, so he was very nervous. But Tiffany was cheerful and put him at ease. She gave him a guided tour of the place and chatted non-stop, barely letting him get a word in. During the whole tour, she held his hand tightly. Her delicate, gentle hands were smooth to the touch. Damon had held hands with Jessica, but she used to grab his hand thoughtlessly.
Jessica was nice,
He thought.
but not as nice as Tiffany. Is Abigail coming tonight?
He asked out of genuine curiosity. Tiffany nodded.
I told her to come later. Anyway, she wants to prepare something for me before she comes.
Then, Tiffany took Damon into her bedroom, and his eyes widened. Sensing the apparent resistance in his grip, Tiffany reassured him.
I know you're a gentleman. And you did say you'd pretend to be my boyfriend.
Damon said nothing and let himself be dragged into the bedroom. The decoration in Tiffany's bedroom was breathtaking. It was all pink and pastel colors, a dream bedroom for every girl. All the furniture was imported from the United Kingdom, and the bed was handmade. While he waited, she put on some light makeup. When she turned to face him, she looked so beautiful that he couldn't think of a suitable compliment. All he could do was take a deep breath. Tiffany rolled her eyes at him.
Turn around. Why are you staring at me like that?
Damon was shocked when she raised her voice.
Turn around right now. I'm going to change.
Finally, he realized that she wanted to change into the dress she had chosen.
If she wanted to change clothes, why did she pull me into the room?
He wondered. However, he knew he couldn't do anything about it because he had promised he would be her boyfriend for the entire day. Damon turned around and took a good look at the room. Everything was so clean. It seemed that even the furniture was shining. Out of the corner of his eye, he vaguely saw that Tiffany was undressing. It was the first time he had been in a room where such a beautiful girl was changing. Tiffany was perfection in his eyes. He kept looking out of the corner of his eye until she was just about to put her evening dress on. Suddenly, they heard a lot of noise from downstairs, and Tiffany knew that Enzo had arrived. She hurried to get dressed. Enzo seemed to cause a commotion wherever he went. As soon as he parked his car at Tiffany's, people started to congregate.
Mr. Laurier, you're here at last.
One of them shouted. Another person saw Enzo's car.
That's an awesome set of wheels.
She hollered. Not only was Enzo driving a top-of-the-range sports car, but it was also filled with roses for Tiffany. It was clear that Enzo was going to propose to Tiffany that evening. Everyone was whooping and yelling with excitement. Enzo got out of the car and asked the housekeeper where Tiffany was. The housekeeper pointed upstairs and said,
Miss Tiffany is changing upstairs.
Enzo became very focused. He went upstairs to greet his love, but as he approached her bedroom door, he heard a voice coming from inside.
Damon, be gentle. It hurt.
Enzo froze on the spot.
What's going on? Isn't that Tiffany's voice? Who's Damon?
His thoughts were running away with him. Enzo had never entered Tiffany's bedroom, and he couldn't understand how another man was allowed inside.
Sorry, it's my first time. I'm not trying to hurt you.
Enzo's blood began to boil. He forgot about any gentlemanly behavior as he kicked the door and shouted.
Tiffany, what are you doing in there? Open the door now.
Tiffany ignored him.
Hurry up. He's outside.
Damon responded with a nod and pulled hard on the zipper at the back of her evening dress. He had found the zipper tricky, mainly because he couldn't take his eyes off Tiffany. Even her back was beautiful. After arranging her dress properly, Tiffany slowly walked over to the door. By then, Enzo was yelling at the housekeeper.
How did you let him inside Tiffany's bedroom?
He shouted. He seemed to think that he owned the place. The housekeeper had just been following Tiffany's instructions. Tiffany opened the door and stared at Enzo.
What's wrong with you? Why are you causing trouble in my house? I'm just changing into my dress.
What?
I just asked Damon to help me with the zipper of my dress. What did you think we were doing?
Tiffany shook her head and continued.
Please get your mind out of the gutter.
Enzo was still furious, and he stared menacingly at Damon. He wanted to kill the interloper. He wouldn't allow any man to touch his Tiffany.
Who is this Damon? Why haven't I heard of him before?
Tiffany took Damon's arm and said,
He's my boyfriend. We've been together for a month now. We woke up right before you arrived.
Enzo took a deep breath and clenched his fists.
What the hell? A boyfriend? Since when did Tiffany have a boyfriend? Who the hell was he to sleep in Tiffany's room?
Enzo wondered. He finally calmed down and scoffed coldly. He knew that Tiffany was deliberately trying to get him going. Slowly, he felt his anger dissolve. He knew he would make sure Damon paid for what he had done. He laughed and replied,
Really, Tiffany, your boyfriend? What gift did he get you? I have a sports car full of roses for you downstairs. Promise to be my girlfriend, and it's all yours.
Tiffany had been so pleased to see Damon that she'd forgotten to ask him about her gift. She suddenly realized that he had come empty-handed. After thinking for a few seconds, she took an apple and placed it in front of Enzo.
Damon got this apple for me because he wishes me to be healthy.
Enzo was dumbfounded.
An apple? Is this a joke? I got her a car.
He wondered if he was actually saying what he was thinking. So loud were his thoughts in his head.
Don't make me laugh. You think an apple represents health? I think it represents getting punched for all eternity.
He snorted as he grabbed Damon's collar and yelled,
You call this a gift? You're a pathetic nobody.
Damon didn't like being shouted at in front of Tiffany, and liked it even less when someone grabbed him by the collar.
I gave her a freaking car.
Enzo vented all his anger on Damon.
Hey, fool. Take your hands off me, and let me get my gift out. After that, you can think what you like.
Enzo's fury returned. He wasn't going to be called a fool by anybody. Damon took out a box from his pocket. It was small but exquisite.
Could it be a diamond ring?
Enzo wondered.
Why don't you open it in front of all your other guests?
Damon suggested confidently. Tiffany gave him a surprised look, but slowly made her way down the stairs with the two men following her. By that time, quite a few guests had arrived. In front of everyone, Damon slowly opened the box. At first, there was total silence. Then came the sound of uncontrollable laughter.
You're going to kill me, Damon.
Tears of laughter poured down Enzo's cheeks.
Such a lovely box for a piece of broken stone. And the stone's so small that Tiffany would need a magnifying glass to see it. You should have stuck with the apple.
Enzo had been a little afraid of Damon when he had first found him in Tiffany's bedroom. Not anymore. Tiffany was speechless.
What on earth is this gift? I gave him $50,000 and this is what I get?
She wondered.
I told you 1,000 times not to believe Damon Hemsworth.
It was Abigail again. Enzo smiled when he heard that Abigail had his back. He wanted Damon out of the house. Even Tiffany was a little angry with Damon.
I gave him all that money to buy me a gift. He could have just told me that he hadn't managed to get anything.
She thought. Damon held the box aloft.
Does anybody here know what this is?
They didn't, of course, but he was going to make sure they soon found out.
What could it be?
This is Californium.
Those words blew everyone's minds.